We do have several people helping us today. Currently from the Mayor's Office of Housing is Sissy Yin. She will be helping talking about ways of how the mayor's office will help us. We also have a lender on the line by the name of Josie Ramirez. She will be talking a little bit later as well. So I just want to appreciate everybody being here today for this presentation. The other thing, I want you to hold off on questions because there's a lot of information we will be talking about today. So we will be talking about that, and we may answer your questions along the way. Once again, my name's Charles. I'm from Balance. We provide financial and housing education for people here in San Francisco and the Bay Area and nationwide via phone. I've been working for Balance for over 12 years, actually almost hitting my lucky number 13 coming up. And then I've done plenty of workshops here in the Bay Area, especially for the San Francisco programs. So people are always asking, what is a below market rate unit? So the below market rate units come from new constructions. When a new project happens, the developer can either not do a below market home in their unit by paying a substantial fee in lieu of having a below market unit. Other times they can offer some units in their development as a below market home, and the city and the developers have worked things out if they decide to do it, how it's going to happen. These are mostly condominium homes that are priced to be affordable for low to income households. So you do have to make sure that you are able to meet the qualifying factors for these below market rate units. Since these are always considered for affordable and low income households, you do have to be aware that they will, you would have to sell them at a below market rate at the resale price, because they're there to help make it affordable to future below market buyers as well. And you do have to qualify as a first-time home buyer, so you cannot have ownership in homes in the past 3 years as a first-time home buyer. Now, these homes, there are benefits to becoming a below market homeowner. And one of the big benefits is their low purchase prices. You could actually purchase maybe let's say a 1-bedroom below market home for $400,000, but the true market value may actually be $1 million in San Francisco, where you're saving $600,000 on this purchase. Also, you can have as little as 3% as a down payment. So back in the 80s and prior to that, you had to bring in 20% of your own funds of the purchase price of the home just to purchase a home. San Francisco does have programs available and down payment assistance programs available to help you on the need for purchase with those down payment assistance programs, especially for the Bmr.
Específicamente para los programas BMR. Y ustedes van a vender el condominio asequible al siguiente comprador de la misma forma que se compró, así que uno tiene que cumplir con ciertos programas para hacer esto, y esos son beneficios que pueden tener para comprar una casa. Y las personas dicen, ay, bueno, pero no hay tantos hogares para comprar.
Market rate. Well, coming up in 2021, here's just a list of the homes that we're looking for to purchase in San Francisco. And you know that big building, big white building on Spear? I call it a giant Jenga building because it looks like a giant Jenga box. Right now, there's going to be approximately about 50 units that will become available on a first-come, first-served basis within the next few weeks. When this first became available, it was in a lottery system, which we will be talking about a little bit later. And now, I've even seen homes now on Treasure Island and Yerba Buena Island as well. So you can take a look at those, and the city will always have a list of these when they're ready to go. So these are coming up for 2021. So as you can see, there's a lot of new projects coming up and a lot of new opportunities coming up for below market homes. In addition, each year the city may have between 50 and 100 condominiums for resales at a below market rate price. So you want to make sure that you're signing up for things. One of the things that you can do is you can sign up for alerts at sf.gov or mohcd.gov and sign up for text alerts to see when these homes are becoming available on the below market rate. I sign up for myself. I get them every week just so I know what's going to be out there each week. So you want to be aware of what is going to be available. The other thing you want to be aware of, sometimes it's not necessarily going to be just from BMRs, not going to be from new constructions. They could be from a condo conversion, meaning that they were rented, they were rentals, but then the owner wanted to convert them to purchase properties. They could also be, some of these properties have been, may have been before the city started the BMR programs. So before they started the city programs, they may have been grandfathered into those and they're very old, but because they started after, they started after the BMR programs originally started up. So they are still considered BMRs because once they're put into the affordable and affordable housing programs for BMRs, once a below market home, always a below market home. But there are requirements that you must make. And those requirements begin with, you must be a first-time home buyer. And the definition for the city and most cities and counties where you may go is there's no homeownership in the last 3 years. So a lot of people back in 2009 may have had a home, but may have lost a home and may have been renting ever since and haven't purchased a home since. They can actually qualify as a first-time home buyer again. It does have to be an owner-occupied home, which means that this is your primary residence. You have to live in the property, and the definition the city has stated for a primary ownership, you have to live in the property 10 out of the 12 months of the year. It is a minimum of one person per bedroom. What that means is if you saw something you liked and you really liked it, but it's only you applying for the home, you cannot apply for a 2-bedroom. That means you can only apply for a 1-bedroom or less, and typically less than 1 bedroom will be a studio. So it's the number of people in your household. There will also be an asset test. Remember, these are low to moderate income households, and you do have to meet certain guidelines in order to qualify for these BMRs. So when they do an asset test, they will look at all your liquid assets. Liquid assets will include checking, savings, CD, money market accounts, invested stocks, cash, cookie jar, I call cookie jar account or under the mattress account. They will be looking at everything. And a lot of these programs state that you only can have so much in liquid assets before your purchase. And then even after your purchase, you can't have that much money left over. So if you have money left over in liquid assets after the purchase of the home, what they'll do is they'll multiply that by 10%. And when they do that, they'll multiply that 10%, and that 10% will be added to your overall annual income. So for some people, it may not make that much of a difference, but for others, it could have a difference of qualifying or not qualifying, because there are household income limits. And household income limits are for those households that will be everybody over the age of 18 that does have a job and will be in that household. So they'll look at everybody's income. And what they're going to be looking at is they will be looking at the area median income. Sissy will be talking about that a little bit later in this workshop. But the area median income is a percentage of what you would pay for the home and the city pays, and you have to meet that certain guideline, and you cannot go over that guideline. Also, you do have to get a pre-approval prior to the application. So your pre-approval must be from a approved lender on the city's website at sf.gov or mohcd.org. You can look at the search engine and just go to approved lenders, and there's a lot of different approved lenders on that list. So you can take a look at the list and go through those approved lenders. However, we prefer you to finish your first-time homebuyer education prior to, we would prefer you to finish your first-time education prior to the pre-approval, but sometimes time constraints may make it a little bit difficult for that to happen. But you want to complete the first-time education prior to application. And in order to complete, you must complete a total of 10 hours. And the 10 hours consists of the following. The 10 hours first consists of a 2-hour one-on-one session. And this is where we're going to go into a little bit more detailed on the first-time homebuyer programs and the programs in the city. You can take this with any of the 5 nonprofits under the Homeowners SF umbrella, which is Balance, of course, LGBTQ, Asian Inc., SFHDC, and Meta. So you can take them with any one that you want to. You do have to take 2 hours, and right now I believe there's almost one every week going on, and they are currently, due to COVID-19, they are virtual orientations that you can get credit for. Once you complete the orientations, you can sign up with to take a 6-hour first-time homebuyer workshop. And I'm not speaking for any of the other agencies right now. I'm just speaking for Balance. Our workshops, we do offer a free webinar that's 3 hours, and it's every other, it's back-to-back Saturdays with doing that. And then once you take that, you would sign up for a 2-hour counseling session. One of the things I want to put forward is whoever you take the 6-hour workshop with, once again, the orientation you can take with any of the 5 nonprofits. Whoever you sign up with the workshops, whether it be Balance, Asian Inc., Meta, or LGBTQ, or SFHDC, you're gonna want to take a 2-hour counseling session with that same agency. So you want to make sure that you are with the same agency. Once you complete those hours, you will receive a verification homebuyer education that the lender wants you to have so they can verify that, yes, you did complete all 10 hours in order for them to loan for you the money. I'm going to move the slides over here to Sissy now, and Sissy from the mayor's office, Sissy Yin from the mayor's office, will be talking about the different affordable housings. So Sissy, it's all yours.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you everyone for being here. My name is Sissy Yin. I'm the Bmi Homeownership Program Manager at Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development of the City and County of San Francisco, MoCD. MoCD is committed to supporting San Franciscans with affordable housing opportunities and essential services to build strong communities. With a racial equity lens, we constantly evaluating our programs, policies, and procedures.
Y los procedimientos para procurar que todos estén avanzando la igualdad de acceso y recursos que ayuda a la mayor parte de la población en riesgo. Y sin más, voy a hablarles acerca de diferentes programas de Bmr. Y tenemos 3 diferentes programas de Bmr generados por diferentes fuentes. Y el primero de los programas es este programa de vivienda asequible, inclusiva o inclusoria, y están derivados del programa y gobernados por el Código de Planeación 415 de San Francisco, y requiere esa planeación y el código de proyecto residencial de 10 o más unidades que paguen un costo de vivienda asequible o que incluyan los criterios de inclusionistas para asignar un porcentaje de esas unidades a Bmr a un precio que sea asequible.
Income household, either on site within the project or off-site at another location in the city. They are scattered throughout the city, and many of them are in high-rise luxury towers. The inclusionary program offers both brand new units for initial sale and resale units. We have about 1,400 units in this program. The second program is called Limited Equity Homeownership Program, LEP. The Bmi units under the LEP program are affordable homes formerly sponsored by San Francisco Redevelopment Agency, now known as Office of Community Investment and Infrastructure, OCII. Those are the homes in specific project areas, including Hunters Point Shipyard, Candlestick Park, Trans Bay, Mission Bay, Western Addition, and Treasure Island. The LEP program also has both brand new units and resales. We have about 700 Bmi units in this program. The third program is the condo conversion program, started in 1979 and later suspended in 1988. At this time, the building owners converting their properties from apartments to condos were required by the city to set aside certain condos as Bmr. Those units are governed by the San Francisco Subdivision Code. They are located in buildings citywide. We have about 400 units in this program, and they are only available through resales. Each Bmi program has different governing documents, but qualification requirements to buyers are exactly the same. Next slide, please. Here's the income table for area median income, AMI, ranging from 80% to 120%. AMI means median income as published by MoCD, using data from Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, on an annual basis for the San Francisco area, adjusted solely for household size, but not high housing cost. When looking at this income table to find the household income limits associated with a certain AMI percentage, first, look down the left column to find the AMI percentage. Then follow the row across until you find the number of people in your household, which is the household size. For example, if a Bmi unit has income limits at 100% AMI, in order to qualify for the unit, a 4-person household can make no more than $128,100 annually. Most of the Bmi units in our current portfolio are designated with AMIs ranging from 80% to 120%. Later this year or early next year, we anticipate to see some Bmi units also to household up to 150% AMI because of the new inclusionary legislation passed in 2017. To find the maximum household income for a specific Bmi unit, the best way is to look at the listing. Each Bmi listing contains the sales price of the unit, maximum household income, unit features, and amenities, application deadline, lottery information, and many more. Next slide. So how do I find a Bmi unit? You can search and apply for Bmi ownership unit on the San Francisco housing portal called Dahlia, which stands for Database of Affordable Housing, Listing Information and Application. When you are at the homepage of Dahlia, you will see 2 white buttons, Rent and Buy. To check out the Bmi ownership unit, you would click Buy to get to the Bmi homeownership page. One thing I want to mention here
Cosa que quiero mencionar es que las listas y el precio es negociable. ¿Qué significa eso? Que significa que la unidad está sobrevaluada y que el comprador en una de esas, el vendedor, va a negociar el precio y eso está sujeto a una metodología que hemos determinado que no refleja el precio actual asequible. Si les interesa comprar cualquiera de esas unidades, recomendamos que trabajen con un
negotiate the price with the seller. Next slide. The website for Dahlia San Francisco Housing Portal is housing.sfgov.org. The best way to get instant updates on any homeownership opportunities offered through MoCD is to sign up for MoCD email housing alert on Dahlia or on our website at sfmocd.org. It should only take you less than 2 minutes. It will ask you if you are looking for ownership or rental housing opportunities. You can select both if you are interested in both rental and ownership housing. Next slide. So what are the first steps for buying a BMR? Step 1 is completing a 10-hour first-time home buy education through a MoCD-approved housing counseling agency. The education includes the 2-hour orientation about MoCD homeownership program and 6-hour workshops and 2-hour individual counseling. The applicants needs to register at homeownershipsf.org. The classes are offered remotely during the shelter-in-place order, as Charles mentioned. Advanced registration is required. Those classes tend to fill up quickly. It may take several weeks to complete, depending on the class offerings and your schedule. So we recommend you to register as soon as possible and get started if you would like to apply for a BMR unit. Step number 2, get a pre-approval on the first mortgage from a MoCD approved lender. The lender list can be found at sfmocd.org/lender-list. And the link is also available on this slide. What I want to say here is almost all the lenders are taking an extremely large volume of applications at this time because of the record low interest rate. So please be prepared for a longer turnaround time to get a response or get a pre-approval from your lender and get started early. Step number 3 is to submit a lottery application before the application deadline. Again, here's the link to Dahlia San Francisco Housing Portal. Next. How do I apply for a BMR? To apply, you need to submit an electronic lottery application, which includes a copy of the mortgage loan pre-approval, home buy education verification letter, and the lottery preference documentation, depending on what type of lottery preference are you claiming. Then you will be entered into the BMR lottery. All Bmi unit must be applied electronically and through a lottery system. If you need any assistance with your application, your housing counselor can guide you through this process. Next slide. Bmi lottery preferences. The lotteries are run electronically, and each applicant is randomly assigned with a lottery rank. Applicants who has a lottery preference will have a better chance to win in the lottery. Each project may have different lottery preferences available. Those are just the most common preferences, and other preferences such as rent burden and assisted housing preference could also apply to certain projects. Again, check out the listing to find out what preferences would apply to each specific project. The first and the highest preference is the Certificate of Preference that was issued by the former San Francisco Redevelopment Agency to displaced tenants in Western Addition and Bayview's Hunters Point in 1960s and 1970s. The Certificate of Preference holders are eligible for 100% of the affordable units in the project. The second highest preference is the displaced tenants housing preference issued by the Mayor's Office for Housing and Community Development to an individual who were displaced by Alice Act, owner move-in, or by fire. The displaced tenants housing preference holders are eligible for up to 20% of the affordable units in the project. The third preference is the neighborhood residence housing preference, which is given to any member of the household who live in the supervisorial district of the project or within a half-mile buffer of the project will be given this preference in the lottery ranking process for up to 40% of the affordable units. The displaced tenants and the neighborhood preference only apply to projects with 5 or more affordable units, and the neighborhood preference only apply to new development. The last preference, which is the most of the applicants would qualify for, is the live or work preference. Any applicant's household who have at least one household member living in San Francisco or work for at least 75% of the working hours in San Francisco would qualify for this preference. The applicant's household who do not hold any lottery preference can still apply. They will be placed in the general. If the number of available units exceeds the number of qualified applicants in the lottery preferences, the units then become available to qualified applicants outside of San Francisco. Next slide. So what happened after the lottery? Be ready. Lottery winners will be invited to submit a full application that includes 3 threes: 3-year federal income tax returns, 3 consecutive and most recent bank statements, 3 consecutive and most recent pay stubs, documentation of any other income and assets. If the applicants will be using gift funds for down payment, we will need a gift letter with the donor's bank statement as proof of their ability to give, and your current lease and the documentation of 3 months of rent payment if they are not shown in your bank statement. If you are renting free, we will ask a letter from your landlord. Lottery winners will have 5 business days to submit these documents after they are being contacted, so just be ready. And I'm going to pass it over to Josie at Boston Private to cover the lender part. Thank you.
Hello, and I'm happy to have you all here joining us this afternoon, and proud to be here sharing it with you. I represent Boston Private Bank, and I'm proud to note that we are and have been one of the Mayor's Office of Housing's approved lenders for its BMR program for many years. You can find also a list of all pre-approved lenders on the Mayor's Office of Housing's website, sfmohcd.org. It's a wealth of knowledge and information there. Check it out. So some banks offer what's referred to as portfolio loans, and that basically means that the bank is lending its own money and keeps the loan in its portfolio, so it doesn't sell it to secondary market investor. Consequently, the bank uses its own guidelines, not the investor's guidelines, when underwriting these files, these loans, which is helpful sometimes because those guidelines tend to be a little bit more flexible than the secondary market guidelines. The guidelines for our portfolio program are designed specifically for low to moderate income households that are first-time home buyers, and therefore, like I said, they're more flexible. For example, With our portfolio loan, you don't need to pay private mortgage insurance if you don't put at least 20% down. And you don't need a 2-year rental history. It's okay if you live with family or friends and trying to save up money to buy a home and not have to pay rent in this high cost area. So also there's more flexibility. We can oftentimes look at debt to income ratios that are a little bit higher. Of course, we have to also factor in and consider the Mayor's Office of Housing's ratios as well. I'll talk a little bit about that in a couple of slides. The point I'm trying to make is that portfolio loans oftentimes can be a little bit more flexible than secondary market loans offered by, but Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, I do want to note that they do offer loan products for BMRs. You just need to make sure you find a lender that offers you the right loan based on your personal circumstances and needs. Next slide, please. Once you've determined your lender, who your lender will be, they will need just about the same documentations that the Mayor's Office of Housing requires in order to start your pre-approval process. This includes the 3 3s that Sissy touched on, the 3 years of federal tax returns and corresponding W-2s. We're in the tax filing season right now, so it's kind of a weird spot. If you've already issued and filed your 2020 tax returns, then we'll need 2018, 19, and 20. If you haven't filed them, that's okay. We will just need the 2017, 18, and 19 tax returns. If you're self-employed, we also need your profit and loss statements. And we also need like the 3 most recent pay stubs, 3 most recent bank statements for all accounts, including your retirement accounts, and the certificate of home buyer education. I always advise my clients to save the documents in a file, and then as you receive your recent pay stubs and bank statements, go ahead and continue to save them there, because more than likely we will have to refresh your file as time goes on, and it will be easy to find them in one place. Okay, next slide, please. So the outcome of the pre-approval process is to determine if you can get pre-approved for a mortgage loan, and also to see for how much. The lender will be able to help you determine the maximum sales price, and the corresponding HOA dues can be what they can be in order for you to meet the debt to income ratios that I spoke of just a few minutes ago. These are important because both lenders and the Mayor's Office of Housing have their corresponding debt ratios. Once you have that information, you can search the BMRs on the Mayor's Office of Housing's website to see what's in your price range once we determine what your maximum sales price is. So in order to, it's important to note that both, oh, I already said that. The ratios for most lenders are about 38 to 40% for what they call the front end ratio. And that includes the total housing cost, including principal and interest, taxes, and insurance. The back end is about 43 to 45%, which includes your housing costs and all other debt that shows up on your credit report. That said, the Mayor's Office of Housing guidelines for debt to income ratios are based on whether or not a BMR DALP will be used. For instance, with the BMR DALP, the front end DTI, or debt to income ratio, can be no less than 33% and not greater than 40%, and can possibly go up to 43% with compensating factors. The front end can't be less than, without the BMR DALP, the front end DTI can't be less than 28% and not greater than 40. Again, possibly up to 43 with compensating factors. And the back end, meaning all other debt, cannot be greater than 45%. I know that's a lot of numbers, a lot of percentages, but basically you'll just want to make sure you work with someone, a lender who knows all that information and guides you accordingly. An example, just to give you a reference, if a household's monthly gross income is $6,000 and the total housing cost is $2,000, then the front end debt ratio is 33%. And this applicant would be eligible for the BMR with the BMR DELP. However, if the income was $6,200, let's say, just $200 more, then the front end ratio would be 32%. And so that household would not be eligible for a BMR DELP. Again, I know this is a lot of numbers. Don't expect you to learn all of this just based on today's information, but it's important for you to just, again, work with an experienced lender who can guide you. Your counselor will do the same. Next slide, please. Okay, so the BMR down payment assistance, I touched on that just a few minutes ago. The BMR down payment assistance has its own guidelines, and it should be noted that the BMR DELP is need-based, and the lender must demonstrate to the Mayor's Office of Housing the applicant's need for the assistance in order to qualify for one of these loans. Ultimately, it is up to the Mayor's Office of Housing to determine the actual BMR DELP approval and amount. Let's see, the BMR DELP loans are available on a first come, first served basis, subject to funds being available. And you can check if there are funds available on the Mayor's Office of Housing's website. If you receive a BMR DELP, there's no monthly payment. Instead, you will share a portion of your equity upon selling your home, shared equity. In addition to the city's BMR DELP, there are many other assistance programs that you may be eligible for and that can be layered or stacked in order to lower the first mortgage and help you qualify. One example is the WISH program, and it's offered by the San Francisco Federal Home Loan Bank. Like with most other assistance programs, this assistance must be approved, the lender must be approved by the Federal Home Loan Bank and be a participating lender. The WISH program offers a 4-to-1 matching grant up to $22,000 per household, which means that you would have to contribute at least $5,500 of your own funds in order to get the full $22,000. It is a first come, first served basis, pending funds availability. This program does run out of funds, but the good news is we expect a new funding release for 2021 around the middle of March. So the funds will be replenished soon, and hopefully you can apply and take benefit of this program. The WISH program has eligibility criteria just like all the others. You must be a first-time home buyer, complete a first-time home buyer education class. There's also a maximum income limit of 80% of the HUD AMI per household size. Just for example, a household of one is $97,600, of two is $111,500, and for three household, it's $125,500. So they're pretty generous in their income limits, so you may qualify as well. Another big plus for the WISH program is that it is forgiven after 5 years if you still continue to occupy the property as your primary residence. So make sure you talk to a lender in order to make sure you have access to WISH funds and as approved and is an approved lender if you are eligible. And then one just additional note I want to add is that the Boston Private also offers a very similar program called the DCAP, the Down Payment and Closing Cost Assistance Program. It's designed right after the WISH program. Everything's like it, except for our income limit will go up to $112,000 regardless of the household size. And it's also forgiven after 5 years if you remain in the property as your primary residence. So that's all I have right now. So I'll hand it over. Next, I think it's Charles, right? Or no, back to Sissy.
Thank you, Josie. Now I'm going to talk about the post-purchase part, the BMR resales, inheritance, monitoring, and compliance. The BMR unit must be sold through MoCD resale process at a restricted resale price based on the resale pricing formula disclosed at the time of purchase and calculated by MoCD at the time of resale. As mentioned previously, all BMI units must be applied and sold through lottery. Just like a market rate unit, the condition of the property makes a difference in resale. It is the homeowner's responsibility to maintain the property in good physical condition. A limited amount of eligible capital improvement made 10 years after the units was initially occupied may be added to the resale price. And HOA initiated special assessment can also be added to the resale price at a depreciation rate of 7% per year. Limited equity is not same as zero equity. MoCD do not guarantee that homeowners will gain appreciation on the BMI unit upon resale. However, long-term homeowners tend to gain appreciation on their units. Next slide. Inheritance. The homeowners can hold the title of a BMI unit in a trust if approved by MoCD. Our trust policy can be found on our website. One of the most common questions being asked is, can I pass my Bmr to my child? So here's the thing. If when all Bmr owners passed away, a child of a Bmr owner may inherit the rights to occupy the unit if he or she meets the program qualification. That meaning that person needs to be first-time home buyer and also satisfy the income requirements. However, if the child do not want to, live in the BMR as a primary residence or does not qualify for the BMR program, the BMR units must be resold to the next buyer through a lottery system, and the child will be entitled to the proceeds of the sale. Next slide. Monitoring and compliance. So no recertification of income is required after purchase. We only do income requirement at the time when home buyers purchasing the BMI units. BMI units must be owner-occupied, meaning it must be maintaining as the owner's primary residence for at least 10 out of 12 months per calendar year. Renting any portion of the units is not allowed. Renting including the long-term rentals, short-term rentals through Airbnb or any other platform, subleasing or roommates. And our office conduct annual monitoring to ensure occupancy compliance, and we work with other agencies to take enforcement actions when homeowners are out of compliance. If you have any questions or would like to talk with one of our staff members regarding the MoCD homeownership programs, please visit MoCD homeownership virtual table at Exhibit Hall. Thank you.
Thank you, Sissy and Josie, for all that information. Once again, if you are thinking about anything, basically go to Homeowners SF bmi.org, register for the orientations. After the orientations, register for the workshop. We will open it up to questions right now for the next several minutes. So let's open it up to questions.
All right, thank you so much to our presenters. Anyone else, if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. And I got some logged in right now. So first one is, I am a one-person household and my income level is barely above the maximum income level. When will the city recognize the real cost of being a single person?
Mhm.
I don't know.
Does,
So basically, San Francisco, everybody wants to live here. It's a beautiful place to live. And yeah, I do understand that the prices may be a little bit difficult, but it is based off of the Housing and Urban Development guidelines for the area AMI chart based off of our area. So they do go off originally off the HUD guidelines and use the AMI chart as the guideline. So if you're one household per household, maybe you might not qualify for a below market home. You could also take a look, do you, based off the AMI, would you be able to afford an open market home with down payment assistance from the city as well? Because they do offer down payment assistance programs on the open market, but this is primarily talking about a below market home. So I hope that answered the question for you.
yeah, for sure. I think so. Okay. So next person, can you apply an SF and search a house in the Bay Area?
I'll take that question. For us, for Balance, we're HUD intermediary. So we are HUD approved counselors nationwide. I can't speak for the other agencies, but if you do take our workshops and our webinars, we've had people that have gone through them and actually applied outside of San Francisco. But when you do go outside of San Francisco, you got to realize that AMI is going to be different. When you go out there, every county and city has their own AMI level, and it will be case by case and city by city.
All right, thank you. All right, next question. If there is more than one contact listed for a lending institution, should we email only one contact? How can we tell if we're not hearing back from the approved lender is due to a delay? And is it okay to follow up? Also, how much information should I provide within my initial email to request a pre-approval letter to a listed contact? Do you want to take that one, Josie?
Sure. There were a lot of questions in there, so I'll try to remember some of them, but refresh me, please.
Yeah.
As Sissy was noting earlier, right now it's a very busy time for lenders, and it's a combination. It's a combination of it being the DALP application period right now, as well as several BMRs and a refi boom that keeps us very, very busy. If you haven't heard back from your lender, then I would encourage you to call or email and just check in on the status and ask when you can expect a response from, because like I said, it is a very busy time. You know, the smart thing is what you're doing right now is applying ahead of time. So if you're applying for DALP, we have until I think it's April 26th. So you're ahead of the game. But yeah, just circle back with your lender and ask when could you expect to hear back from the lender. Was there another part of that question?
There was. They were asking kind of what information should they provide in their initial email to request a pre-approval letter?
Well, I can only speak for myself, but when you initially email, it's good to know which BMR you're interested in, or if you just want a general pre-approval. And if you could specify which BMR, then that helps, because we can look at it and base the purchase price and HOA dues on a specific unit. If it's a general pre-approval, then we will just assume HOA dues at about 600 and base the pre-approval on that. But initially, if you just email, I could speak for myself that I will respond, or my assistant will respond, giving you an online application link and instructions of what we're going to need from you, documentation checklist and everything, what next steps would be.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, another question. What if I'm lucky to get a 1-bedroom unit and then get married later? Can my spouse live with me, and can they inherit the unit if I pass away? Do you want to take that one, Sissy?
Sure. Thank you, David. If you get married after you purchase a Bmi unit, you have options. So it's up to you whether you want to add your spouse to the title of the Bmi or not. Your spouse can definitely occupy the Bmi unit as long as you just notify our office. That's totally fine. If you like to add your spouse to the title of the Bmr, you do need to contact the MoCD first. We have the title transfer procedures in place. We will ask you the documentation such as your marriage certificate, to verify the marriage status. And then we have a paperwork that we're going to work with you to finish the title transfer. Once your spouse is on the title, then yes, your spouse basically inherit, if it happened that the homeowner passed away, the spouse is actually going to be the sole owner of the Bmi unit.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that. Can I buy a Bmr condo with cash?
Should I take over the question?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Very good question, because one of the requirements for Bmi financing is we require the first mortgage loan to value ratio is 50%. What that means is you have to take a first mortgage in the amount that is 50% of the sales price. So the answer to that is no, you cannot actually do a cash offer on a Bmi unit. You do have to qualify for a first mortgage loan at least 50% of the Bmi sales price.
All right, thank you. All right, so this is a pretty specific question. 62 years old. I usually make between $35,000 and $55,000 annually. My roommate and I are being evicted through the Ellis Act, and they expect a large amount of money to come out of the lawsuit. For that year, our income will be high, but after that, it will be down again. Can I qualify to purchase a below market rate housing once we have this money?
Those type of money, if it's just a one-time and the lump sum addition to your family assets, generally we don't count that as your household income, but however, we do count that as your assets. And if it's a liquid, yeah, that's actually is considered as liquid assets once you deposit into your bank account. So you will be subject to the assets test.
Wonderful, thank you. Thank you. Okay, and they also ask who we can talk to, and I think the answer would be talk to your housing counselor,
Yeah, talk with any of the housing counselors, anybody that's listed under a Homeowners SF umbrella. You can set up a housing counselor. As far as balance does, we want to make sure that people are following the rules and guidelines of the city. So we want to make sure that you've taken the orientation and you've taken the workshop before we actually set you up with a counselor ahead of time. And like Sissy and Josie have said, right now it is a lot of people trying to get in. So for those people that have finished their workshops, we're booking those people right now with us. That have gone through with us ahead of time. We're not going to book people that have not completed their 8 hours for the education. And then once you sit down with the housing counselor will be specific to your specific needs and discuss those options, like in the inheritance, like where you fall with the ratios and what you're going to need to bring to the lender. So the housing counselor will be there along the way with you to help you out.
Wonderful. Thank you to our housing counselors. One question is, can I apply for Section 8 in San Francisco?
I will take that question. Thank you. Yes, you can use the Section 8 voucher to apply for homeownership opportunities. The first step you would be contact the housing authority and ask them to convert your voucher to homeownership voucher. Even converting to homeownership voucher does not mean that you're going to losing your rental voucher. You're not going to lose it until you actually able to purchase a home using your Section 8 voucher.
I just want to add that we have been successful in the past to help someone with a homeownership voucher purchase a BMR program unit. So yes, definitely that can happen.
That's right, Josie. You helped the clients before.
Yep.
Cool. All right. For most CD, this is a question for you, Sissy. Is there any flexibility in being over income for a specific BMR property? For example, I'm $19 over income for a specific property.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that you're a little bit over. Unfortunately, we have to apply the rules consistently to all household and based on the procedures manual. We cannot make an exception to one household, but not to other household. But I would say, I still encourage you to apply and talk with your housing counselor because the way that we calculating income may be different than what you thought. So maybe you're not over income. And also, there are other housing opportunities might be available for you based on your household income. So I do encourage you to check with your housing counselor and see, if there are any other program available, and you should actually give it a try to apply.
All right, thank you. Next question here. Do you have to pay to receive a pre-approval letter?
No, I'll answer that one. No, you should not have to pay for a pre-approval letter. Again, I can't speak for all lenders. I'll speak for Boston Private. We do not charge for pre-approval letters.
Great. All right, and another question for you, Josie. You mentioned during the slide when you discussed the DELP, there was additional funding, I believe called the DCAP for $112,000. Where can I find more information on this funding?
Okay, so what I said was if your income does not exceed $112,000, then you're eligible for a DCAP, and the DCAP is up to $15,000. And that, again, if you are eligible for WISH, again, all of these programs have income limits, and the WISH, again, is by household size. So it's up to 22,000. So these programs can be layered. They call them layered programs with the DELP or the BMR DELP, whatever program you're applying for. But it's not 112,000 for the down payment assistance. It's up to 15,000 if your income does not exceed 112. So I just want to make sure I clarify that.
Perfect.
But the beauty of those programs is that they are forgivable grants.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, and we're almost out of time, but just maybe one or two more questions. As a BMR owner, if I marry a non-American citizen that doesn't have a social security number and doesn't live in the U.S., can I add them to the title?
Yes, you can. We actually don't have requirements that they have to be a U.S. citizen to add them to be the title. Even when you're applying, most CD does not have immigration status requirements for our buyers.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay.